Hello, this is Melody from SIM. Thank you for joining the interview. Would you like to introduce yourself, your name, your age, and also the institution that you are in?
Uh, Hi, so my name is Anteng and I'm currently 21 years old this year. Currently studying uh, in Singapore University of Social Sciences as a year one student.
Okay. So just wanna ask you, how do you spend your time on a day-to-day these past few weeks?
So basically, my typical day starts pretty early
Mm.
because for this semester I have my classes are all morning classes. So what I do is when I wake up early, then I'll go to shower and prepare to go out in the morning. Then most of my day will be spent in class. And after that, if I have further work to do or assignments, I'll head to the school library and do work until evening, where I'll go home and maybe take a break, relax, and use my phone in the room. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned that you go to school quite often. So nowadays Singapore is having extreme heat and temperatures can go up to 35 degrees. So how does the hot weather in Singapore affect your mood and your motivation to go to school?
I think it has really affected me a lot in terms of mood and motivation. So I would always prefer to stay indoors as I'm someone that is quite afraid of heat. So when I go out, I'll only stay in the shopping malls or air conditioned areas. And sometimes I'll get so tired to go out because it's so really, I mean, so damn hot outside. So um, I would just stay in my room, draw down my curtains and like sleep because I'll get very irritated when the weather is very hot and I am getting sweaty. Yeah.
Mm. Okay, so since you get irritated often when the weather is hot, so is there any way that you anything that you do to help defeat the extreme heat in Singapore?
So the first thing I would do is my choice of clothing wise. So when I go out, I either be in sleeveless top or short sleeve top, because I want lightweight and breathable material for my clothes so that I would not sweat that much. Even if I sweat, I would not be that uncomfortable in my clothing lah. So another one it would be I would always like to bring out a cooling fan or like just cooling pads if there is if I have it so that it kind of cool me down when I'm going from place to place and I'm going to get that irritated. Another thing would be hydration wise. I'm someone that don't really like drink water, but under this extreme heat I have to bring my water bottle around. If not, I think I'm quite vulnerable to like the heat
Mm,
and like getting dehydrated. Yeah.
understand. Okay, so what do you think are the impacts of extreme heat on vulnerable groups? So vulnerable groups, we are talking about like elderlies, children, or construction workers.
I particularly very like quite worried for our construction workers because I can never imagine myself getting under the heat from 12 like from morning all the morning the sun's not that hot at 12 p.m. is where it's super hot all the way until the sunset at about 7 p.m. So I think they are very vulnerable to heat strokes and stuff like that because they really needs to get dehydrate they really need to get hydrations to keep themselves going, especially they are doing like physical tasks, and I think they are very very vulnerable, and I think we need to help them. Another one would be the children. Children wise, I think we have all been through that in secondary school, whereby the weather is so hot that we don't have aircon in school as well. So I think it kind of draw out make us feel fatigued and like they cannot focus in classes as yeah, things like that. For
Mm,
elderly wise, they are similarly to the construction workers, just that maybe elderlies, they don't get under the sun that often. But I think some of them might have difficulty to limited mobility already. Being so hot, it kind of limit them to get out of house. And I think that would have some long-term effects on them, whether be it like socially wise or like mentally wise. Yeah.
Okay. Can. So since we are on a topic of vulnerable groups, uh, is there any implementations or products that you are aware of are used to support heat resilience in vulnerable groups? Like for example, what has government implemented in Singapore to help them further to beat the extreme heat in Singapore?
For vulnerable groups like construction workers, all I know is that I've heard that they have cooling vests, hats, to maintain their body temperature when they're outside working. For the elderly wise, I know our government have been building a lot of cooling shelters, um, and installing mist fans or water sprays at public areas. For the children wise, although there has been debates whether to install air conditions in the school, I'm not very sure whether it's been really implemented yet. But from what I know, in back then in school for the secondary four students, in order for them to focus better, we do have air conditions in the room for the graduating students who are going for exams.
Okay,
Yeah.
can. Um, so actually climate change is a huge contribution to the extreme heats um in actually all the countries. So do you think that climate change is important? And are you like aware of anything regarding climate change in Singapore?
I think is extremely important issue that we are facing currently at this age. And the government have been openly discussing about that as well. Like, if I'm not wrong, in the national rally, they have mentioned it also how we are gonna fight climate change as it's a growing issue in the in the future years lah. I mean, in these years going down, and a lot of countries been having debates. With the although we know that we have been in Singapore, there's a lot of air conditions around, but I don't think that's very good in the long run because it produces greenhouse gas. If I'm not wrong, and I think what I've seen in the changes that the government have been trying to do is maybe planting of trees, building more
Mm,
greenery to help with fighting of climate change. Another thing
mm,
would be in the HDB, we are starting to see solar panels on our rooftop to help us to save some electricity, and that does contributes to helping with climate change lah.
mm. Okay. Since it seems like you are up to date with the news about climate change and the sustainability in Singapore. So just want to, find out more. Have you ever came across campaigns related to heat resilience as well as climate change? Like for example, have you ever came across TikTok videos or IG stories or reels regarding climate change?
I have definitely been through some. So for
Hmm.
example, I think CNA they do have a documentary about climate change.
Hmm.
Another thing would be and in like air conditioner ads or like fridge, like so basically all the electrical appliances, they do have advertisements that for people to choose like the less costly, not say like the ones that doesn't consume the amount of electricity for people to buy. And I think that's kind of encouraging people to choose something that's less consuming of electricity, and that kind of help with our climate change. Yeah. And another thing would be all the videos that we have encountered online, like CNA documentary. Those are things that maybe would raise awareness on climate change lah.
Hmm. Okay, so you mentioned about documentaries and CNAs. Do you think this kind of platforms can be used to educate youth like yourself? Like, are y'all keen to read or watch this kind of videos on heat resilience?
I think it does helps because many times we might not be aware of how serious it
Mm.
is, like um this whole issue is, and we are very blessed to be in Singapore whereby we have a lot of air conditions around. We might not know the seriousness, and I think the documentaries are very interesting. But maybe for youngsters, they might not be that interested to watch a whole long video. TikTok videos are extremely helpful for like youth. And so I think social media campaigns like that would kind of engage the younger generations to have more awareness around surrounding this issue lah.
Okay. So you think that like shorter videos such as using the platform of TikTok is better for youths to learn about heat resilience, right?
Yes.
Mm. Okay. So my last question for you would be what kind of outcome will you expect after learning more about the impact of extreme heat? Like for example, in terms of personal growth or in terms of social impacts?
I think personal growth wise,
Mm.
I will get a deeper understanding of the environmental challenges. Why is it leading to such problems? And we will also increase awareness about such issues to better change our lifestyles to cater to helping this entire climate change issue, like using lesser air conditioner, yeah, things like that. And what social impact wise, I think this could contribute the community for discussions on how we can help how we can help to do what things we can do when we are facing these challenges, and have initiatives led by community or advocate for better public policies for the government to make changes and do some actions to help create a more sustainable society in terms of um climate change, what we can do. Yeah.
Okay, Ken, I think that is all the questions I have for you. Thank you for your inputs and thank you for agreeing to do this interview with me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Hello, I'm Melody from SIM, currently studying year one in business, and I am conducting this interview regarding heat resilience as well as climate change. So please introduce yourself.
Okay, hi, my name is Hanwei and I'm 21 this year and I'm currently a full-time national serviceman.
Mm. Okay. Hi, Hanwei. So, I'll start off with how do you spend your time daily?
Okay, so since I'm a canine handler in the RSCF, on duty days I spend most of my time training dogs outdoor, or if not, I'm guarding the gates of the airbase. And when I'm not on duty back at home, I will probably be out with friends and family, or resting up at home.
Mm. Okay, so you mentioned that when you are handling the dogs, when serving your nation, and it's mostly outdoors. So nowadays, Singapore is facing extreme heat and temperatures can go up to 35 degrees. So I just want to ask you, how has the increasingly hot weather in Singapore affect your mood and your motivation to um go on with your daily life in NS?
Okay, so in terms of NS wise, I mean, I cannot really avoid the heat that much, but um, I'm fortunate enough to have like mostly a lot of air conditioned room in my unit, so it doesn't really affect me that much. However, uh, in terms of back at home, I don't think that the increasingly hot weather in Singapore is the main deciding factor for me to leave the house. So considering that I'm really used to Singapore's heat, I would still go out, even in like outerwear and long pants. However, the heat might affect my mood,
Mm.
as I dislike the fact that by the time I get to MRT, like everywhere, like my head, face, back is already drenched with sweat. So yeah.
Okay. Can Okay, so since you go out often also with your friends and just want to find out more, how do you defeat extreme heat in Singapore? However, you mentioned that you still go ahead with like long pants and long sleeve tops. So is there any like products that you use to help defeat extreme heat in Singapore?
Okay, so to defeat the extreme heat in Singapore, more often than not, I would find myself turning on the aircon more frequently to cool down the room, to make the room less stuffy, but that's at home. But when I go out, I would also carry along a small portable cooling fan in my bag, which was a gift from the platoon by my superiors in NS. So the fan is impressively small yet powerful in helping me stay cool when on duty, going out, or to just run errands on hot days. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. So since we are on a topic of extreme heat, um, what do you think are the impacts of extreme heat on vulnerable groups? So the vulnerable groups that we are talking about is elderlies, children, as well as construction workers, since they are constantly outside, working day to night.
Mm. Okay,
Mm,
so I feel that even though the elderly and children are opposite ends of the spectrum, like in terms of age groups, but both age groups have either weaker or developing immune system. Hence, they are more susceptible and vulnerable to dehydration and heat exhaustion if they take the heat lightly and do not drink up regularly or give themselves enough rest. Yeah.
okay. And how about do you have any opinions on the impacts of extreme heat on like construction workers, for example?
Yes, I do think that since their job scope is more taxing and they're literally like directly under the sun,
Mm,
I feel that they do get affected by the heat quite uh
quite often.
easily. Yeah,
Yeah.
often because uh
Mm,
I would also see them like wearing long sleeve when they are uh under the sun. So
mm,
I do believe that their employers should implement a strict work rest cycle for them to
mm,
follow so they can have enough time to acclimatize, drink, rest, shit to prevent themselves from suffering from heat related issues because they are directly under the sun
mm.
and they shouldn't overwork themselves.
Okay. So, previously you mentioned that like government should implement like a regulation for construction workers. However, are you like aware of any current implementations or products that are used to support these vulnerable groups against the extreme heat in Singapore? Like for example, implementations by government?
Mm, I'm actually aware of installations like misting
Okay.
fans in certain
Misting
areas around Singapore.
fence.
I've seen it before.
Mm,
Yeah, like in hawker centers or the nursery. And then I
okay.
also do notice that there have been more shaded outdoor spaces and walkways being built to shelter citizens and protect them from being in direct contact with the heat. And for construction workers, right, wise, and basically in all workers' contexts, including myself, I've I know that there's currently an Workplace Safety Health Act by MOM, where
Mm,
employers must take necessary steps to mitigate the risk of heat stress for outdoor workers. So it's actually called the wet bulb globe temperature bands,
mm,
which is a strict work rest cycle, which I mentioned previously, for all workers to follow to ensure that they acclimatize, drink, and rest and shade up um appropriately to prevent themselves from suffering from heat related issues.
yes. Can. Do you think climate change is important? And what do you know about climate change in Singapore?
Yes,
Mm,
I actually do believe that climate change is important and everyone has an active role to play in protecting the environment. So, for example, the simple act of using lesser water when bathing, cooking, and washing goes a long way to reduce carbon emissions. And then I'm also like proud that the Singapore government is taking not taking climate change lightly. Like movements such as the Singapore Green Plan 2030 and initiatives like Go Green SG helps to raise awareness of climate change among Singaporeans. And everyone can try their best to safeguard our homeland's environment in unity. Lah. So that's what I feel.
Okay, can. Have you ever like came across initiatives or campaigns related to heat resilience, like using platforms such as TikTok or Instagram, or have you read the news regarding heat resilience?
Uh, No, I've not come
Mm,
across campaigns related to heat resilience in the urban planning context. However, I'm aware of resilience for our
mm,
bodies. So,
okay.
in the army, we are constantly briefed thoroughly on how to prevent heat exhaustion and the symptoms of heat stress and how to function well under hot conditions. However, I'll be keen to learning more about any of the upcoming or ongoing campaigns pertaining to heat resilience, as the heat in Singapore is never going away. And it would be good for us to be knowledgeable and spread awareness on how to stay cool and safe in the heat. Yeah.
Mm,
So I've not come across any campaigns, but I
okay.
would wish to.
But you'll be keen to find
Yeah,
out
I
more
would be
lah.
keen to.
Okay. Can. So since you are keen to find out more about heat resilience as well as the climate change, what kind of learning activities or platforms you think can be used to educate youth like yourself on uh heat resilience as well as climate change in Singapore?
Okay. I
Mm,
feel that other than the mainstream social media campaigns to educate youth on heat resilience, I feel that integrating technologies like AR and VR and interactive mobile apps, interactive documentaries, and in-person community action projects in schools can help youth find joy in understanding the importance of heat resilience and engaging in an engaging and personal way, rather than just like uploading it on social media and for the whole of the everyone on the platform to see. It's not really that targeted or interactive. Basically, yeah, I feel like people won't
mm,
be engaging well um with the content if the campaign is just on social media. Yeah, so we have to make use of technology, interactivity, and in-person, like face-to-face kind of campaigns. Yeah,
mm. Okay, can.
that's how I
Um,
would prefer to
mm,
be educated on. Yeah.
okay, so you prefer like uh face to face physical, like for example pop-up booths, will it be a good learning
Yes,
activity?
for example, pop-up booths.
Mm. Okay,
Yeah,
however, do you
pop-up
think
booths
like
or hands-on.
ah, okay, can, however, do
Yeah.
you think using social media to raise awareness on climate change and heat resilience is better than uh whatever you have mentioned previously, like the pop-up booths and uh VR and AR?
Yeah, I mean, social media ultimately is still a very powerful medium to spread
Mhm.
awareness of stuff because quite literally everyone is on that platform and your
Mm,
target audience can be reached easily. Yeah, whereas for AI and VR, I mean, even though these are more mm, interesting way to educate people. I feel like the easiest way would still be social media lah. But if you were
mm,
trying to go for a more interesting or unique approach, then we can integrate technologies and stuff. Yeah, but I still feel like social media is good enough.
mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so moving on to the last question I have for you. What kind of outcome would you expect after learning more about the impact of extreme heat? Like, for example, in terms of personal growth or social impact.
Okay. So after learning about the impact of extreme heat, I
Mm,
would expect youth like myself to experience personal growth by becoming more aware of climate issues, developing empathy for vulnerable communities like the elderly, construction workers. Yeah. And then also inspiring ourselves to adopt more sustainable practices. As I mentioned earlier, every small step or every small step that we take in saving the earth will go a long way. And then ultimately and hopefully fostering a sense of collective responsibility towards creating a more resilient and sustainable future for ourselves, and the country and the world. Yeah.
Okay, can. So that concludes our interview. Thank you for your time. Yeah,
Okay.
bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Hello, this is Melody, and I am currently a year one student studying in SIM business. And please introduce yourself.
I'm Xing Yi, 17 this year, studying in Singapore Poly Year Zero.
Okay, hi Xingyi. So I'll start off by asking you, how do you spend your time daily?
I spend my time daily by attending school every day, and in the afternoon, I go for my CCA, which is basketball.
Okay, so during your CCA, do you train in the indoor court or the outdoor basketball court?
I would train in the outdoor court.
Okay, can. So currently Singapore is facing extreme heat and temperatures can even go up to 35 degrees. So just want to find out more since you do your basketball training outdoor. How has the increasingly hot weather in Singapore affect your mood and your motivation to train?
The heat makes me less motivated to go out during the day, and I tend to feel more irritable when it's extremely hot.
Okay. And how about when you are training wise if it's like a very hot weather?
I would normally like wear short sleeve jerseys and drink more cold energy drinks.
Okay. What kind of energy drinks do you drink?
I drink those 100 plus.
Mm, okay. And how about when you are going out with your friends? What kind
Mm,
of products you use to defeat the extreme heat in Singapore?
I would bring my portable fans and wear lightweighted clothing to stay cool.
Mm, okay. Moving on to my next question. What do you think are the impacts of extreme heat on vulnerable groups? So the vulnerable groups that we are talking about here are elderlies and children.
Extreme heat can lead to the dehydrations, heat exhaustions, and even heat stroke. The elderlies and young children are more vulnerable re- and because they may not regulate their body temperatures as well or may not recognize signs of overheating to the weather.
Hmm. Okay. So, do you think awareness of climate change is important?
Yes.
Okay, and what do you know about the climate change in Singapore?
In Singapore, rising temperatures, more heat waves, and the level, rising sea levels are major concerns.
Hmm. Okay. So it seems like you are quite well read about the climate change in Singapore. Just want to find out more. Are you aware of any implementations or products that you um know of are used to support heat resilience in vulnerable groups such as construction workers and elderlies?
Some initiatives include cooling vests for workers, increased shaded rest areas, and community centers for elderlies with air condition.
Okay. And have you ever came across campaigns or initiatives related to heat resilience?
Yes.
Okay, are you able to briefly describe what was it about and where do you came across this campaign?
It's about like promoting hydration and heat safety. They usually focus on like educating people about the risk of heat related illness and like how are the ways to stay cool in this kind of like weather.
And where do you come across this campaign from?
Sometime sometime on social media
Hmm.
like
What kind of social
Instagram,
media? Instagram. Okay.
Instagram and Facebook.
Okay, but those are like short videos or just a picture?
Yeah, sometimes it was like a short pictures. I mean short videos.
Hmm. Like a skit?
Yes.
Okay. So what kind of learning activities or platforms you think can be used to educate youths like yourself on heat resilience?
Mm, like interactive workshops and more social media campaigns can be effective.
Okay, can. So if there is a physical workshop, will you go for the physical workshop?
Yes.
Okay. And what kind of outcome will you expect after learning more about the impact of extreme heat, for example, in terms of personal growth or social impact wise?
I'll expect personal growth in terms of being more prepared and like more aware. And like on the social level, I hope to like contribute to awareness efforts and help protect vulnerable groups like elderly and children by sharing my knowledge to them or like taking actions.
Okay, can. So that concludes the interview. Thank you for spending your time doing this interview with me. Yeah. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Hello, please introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Charlize. I am currently like 21 this year and I'm taking a gap year, so I've been like doing different internships as of recent.
Okay. So I'll start off with asking you, how do you spend your time daily?
So, cause I'm like still an intern, so most of my weekdays are mostly like spent in the office working on like various tasks and projects. And actually, like after work, right, I would like to like unwind by hanging out with my friends, usually for dinner. And I also like try to make use of my free time during like the weekends to like recharge and like hang out with like my other friends as well.
Hmm. Okay, can. So you mentioned that you go to work every day. So nowadays Singapore's weather is extremely hot. It can go up to 35 degrees. So how has the increasingly hot weather in Singapore affect your mood and your motivation to leave your house to go to work?
I would say like the hot weather definitely makes me like less motivated to leave the house because I will know like I'll end up like sweating and like the moment I step out of the house, and it makes me like think about like having to like run errands or like meeting out with people a bit of a hassle. So I will find myself like procrastinating a lot, and I will like try to wait until like the weather cools down a bit,
Hmm.
or like during like the evenings to like leave the house instead of like leaving the house like during the afternoons.
Hmm. Okay. So, then how do you defeat the extreme heat in Singapore? Like what kind of product you use or what kind of clothes that you wear to help um you to feel cooler in the Singapore weather?
To beat the heat, I also
Mm,
invested like in a portable fan that I always carry around with me. So I usually have like a very long walk before I reach like the MRT. So I will always like use like the fan to help me like to retain my makeup and like to prevent like the sweat from like sweating even more. And it also helps me to like cool down when I'm on a move or stuck in a very like hot spot like outdoors. So because of that, like I always prefer like going to like indoor spaces with like air conditioning when possible, so that I can spend more time at like shopping malls and cafes with like air conditions spaces, and it's a lot more bearable than being out in the sun. And I also like will choose to wear like more cropped and like thinner like clothes, so that it helps me with like the sweat as well.
Hmm. Okay. So, since we're on the topic of extreme heat in Singapore, what do you think are the impacts of extreme heat on the vulnerable groups? So, the vulnerable groups that we are talking here are like elderly, children, as well as construction workers, since they are constantly exposed to the hot weather in Singapore.
Mm. I think extreme heat can be very hard on like vulnerable groups like elderlies and the children especially. Like the elderly like might struggle with dehydration and heat exhaustion more, especially if they're not able to like regulate their body temperature as effectively. Whereas like children, right, might not be able to like communicate their discomfort as well. Yeah, especially for like toddlers when they are not able to like speak. So which could like lead them to like getting overheated without anyone noticing. I think I did saw like articles of like children left behind in like cars, right? Then like their parents will go about like shopping in like shopping malls, and then they will leave their kids in a car, and then because it's really hot in the car, then like there's no one that they can communicate to. They don't really have phones or whatnot. Then they will end up like actually like dying of like heat exhaustion in these cars. Yeah, so it's important for like groups to have access to like cooling spaces and to stay hydrated like during those extreme heat conditions, especially for
Mm,
like construction workers as well. Yeah,
mm,
so I would say it's the same. Mm.
okay. So, since I think you are quite well read on and um quite updated on the news regarding climate change and also the the weather in Singapore, so I just want to find out more if are you aware of any implementations or products that are used to support heat resilience in vulnerable groups, like for example implementations by government? Mm,
I think for construction workers, I've heard of like cooling vests and
mm,
portable air conditioning units being used to help them to like manage the heat. So actually these devices actually help them to like stay cool while working outdoors in intense conditions lah. And as for the elderlies, right, there are initiatives like cooling centers in public spaces and providing them with like fans or like air conditioned transports. I think Singapore transport is like pretty cooling, yeah, to make sure that they don't like overheat when they are out. And I think these are like important steps to like help these vulnerable groups like cope with like such extreme like temperatures.
mm. Okay. So, since we are on the topic of climate change, personally, do you think climate change is important? And what do you know about like climate change in Singapore?
Oh yes, I definitely think like climate change is a critical issue, like not
Mm,
just in Singapore but the whole world. But in Singapore, we have been experiencing like hotter temperatures and unpredictable like weather patterns. I think it was like raining for a period of time, and it was like raining really heavily. Yeah, and now it's like really hot. Yeah, so I think it's becoming how like obvious how like the climate is changing. And I know that sea rise level is also a major concern, as like Singapore is a low-lying island and it could like affect our coastal areas in the future. However, I think I could make more of an effort to like learn more about it. I haven't done a lot of research simply because I haven't taken the time to dive into it. And climate change is something that I feel like it's not on the top of my mind. But I do recognize how important it is, especially seeing like the weather these days, and like having to like have these weather conditions like uh deteriorate in the future, right? I think it would bring like harm upon like my family members or like even me in the future. Yeah, so yeah, I should do more research about it. Yeah.
okay, can. So actually previously you mentioned that you came across like initiatives Just want to find out more on that. So, have you ever like came across like campaigns and initiatives related to how to defeat the extreme heat in Singapore as well as climate change?
I would say that I've not seen a lot of
Mm.
campaigns, actually. So I think especially with the heat these days, right? Maybe the most that I've seen is like campaigns like remembering people to like hydrate more and take more breaks, like in shaded areas during like the extreme heat. I think sometimes on like radio, and on news, right, they will talk about how like in what ways can you like actually take care of like your health during like this like very hot season. Yeah, but other than that, like from new media stuff, right? I have not seen like physical campaigns. I've not really seen like traditional news like promoting um like campaigns related to like heat resilience. I would definitely be interested to learn more. Anything that can like raise awareness or like protect people from like the extreme heat. So actually I would love to see more of these campaigns in real life in Singapore. Yeah.
Okay, so since you would like to see more campaigns like in real life, so do you think like pop-up booths will be helpful for to educate youths like yourselves?
I would say for youth, right? More
Mm.
than like pop boosts, I think social media platforms and short engaging videos would be more enriching and like greater to like reach youth. Yeah, so for something interactive, like challenges or quizzes on heat resilience will make it fun and easy to understand. And for like maybe like events and like workshops could also work, especially if they use like real world examples to show how heat impacts us and what we can do to help. So gamifying like the learning process can also be an interesting way. So I think many of like the younger generation likes to like game. So maybe like perhaps game initiatives will be able to keep like the younger audience like involved and informed about like these campaigns as well.
Okay, can. So just to summarize the previous question, so you mentioned that using of short videos like using TikTok videos as well as like interactive platforms like using quizzes is useful to educate youth like yourself.
Yes,
Mm.
correct. So I think these short form like videos and contents are, I think, more reachable for like
Mm.
youth.
Okay, so TikTok will be like a good platform.
Yes, and like
Okay.
Instagram as well. Yeah.
Mm. Okay, can. So, we'll move on to the last question. What kind of outcome will you expect about after learning more about the impact of extreme heat, like, in terms of, for example, personal growth or social impact?
Mm, I would say that after learning about like heat resilience, I expect to see more of a shift in awareness in society. So more of like a social impact, I would say. So more people, especially like youth, recognizing the importance of like staying safe in the heat. And I also hope to like see more like proactive steps taken by like individuals. So that is to link with like personal growth. Yeah, so such as like wearing like appropriate clothing, carrying water, or simply understanding how like extreme heat can impact vulnerable groups. I think ideally, right, this knowledge will be able to like contribute to a more collective effort in protecting ourselves and others from the dangers of extreme heat. Yeah.
Okay, can. So, that will conclude our interview. Thank you for your time and um agreeing to do this interview with me. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Hello, I'm Melody from SIM, currently studying year one in business. Thank you for spending your time to do this interview with me. We can start off by having you to introduce yourself.
I'm Jonah. I'm currently 22 and I'm serving the NS now.
Okay, hi Jonah. So we will start the interview now. I'll start off by asking you how do you spend your time daily?
So outside of camp, I usually spend my free time playing basketball outdoors, or I'll spend some time playing badminton with my friends. Yeah, usually on the Saturday and Sundays.
Oh, okay. So I can say that you are quite a sporty person,
Yeah,
since
yeah.
you frequently play sports. So, how has the increasingly hot weather in Singapore affect your mood and your motivation to leave your house since Singapore currently is facing extreme heat and temperatures can go up to 40 degrees. So, how has it affect your mood?
So usually, maybe previously, I will play, let's say, meeting out with my friends to play basketball. We'll meet around 4 to play, or even 3 to play in the afternoon. But because of the extreme heat conditions these days, especially these few months, we tend to push back our playing time to maybe, let's say, 7, where it's not as hot. And some other challenges, such as just going out in general, knowing that after showering, being prepared to go out, there are clothes that I can't wear because it's too stuffy or it's too hot to wear. And the moment I step out, I'll just start sweating profusely. So these are the challenges and some things out that will make me less motivated to go out because of the weather.
Okay. So, let's say like you are going out with your friends in the afternoon. Is there anything that you do to help defeat the extreme heat in Singapore, such as like products or the clothing that you wear?
So I tend to wear something that is just more suitable for the heaty weather, something that's not too thick lah. In terms of material wise, I do use wet wipes that I carry around with me that I can wipe, and yeah, I tend to polarize myself before going out. That helps me sweat a bit lesser and makes me feel a bit more comfortable, I guess. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. And since we're on the topic of extreme heat, what do you think are the impacts of extreme heat on vulnerable groups? So, vulnerable groups that we are talking here are the elderly, children, as well as construction workers.
For the kids and the elderly, I would guess that for them, if they ever want to go out just for their walks, um, it also make them feel less motivated. And because they are more vulnerable, kids and elderlies, I guess they are more prone to just heat exhaustion, or maybe just worst case scenario might be even a heat stroke. Yeah, but for the, let's say, construction workers, especially for them, I feel it's just like their work environment, the things that they need to wear. Because working with some of them, they do need to wear their safety gear, such as their helmet, maybe even a vest, which might contribute to them feeling even more heaty. Uh, on top of the heaty weather, lah, the heat, extreme heat conditions on top of that, that make them feel very, very not motivated, and will just make them feel very tired after a long day. Yeah, so these are the challenges that this group will face.
Okay. Since you mentioned that you work quite often with construction workers, is there any implementations or products that you are aware of are used to support heat resilience in the vulnerable groups?
So just for the construction workers or for the elderlies and kids also.
You can focus on the construction workers first.
Okay, so for the construction workers, actually not much of products lah, but maybe they are systemized to maybe drink water every, like, maybe let's say 30 minutes to an hour, according to how tough their task is like in hand. So yeah, and they do carry, some of them I do see they carry portable fans with them that they can put, so in case like they're really really feeling very very hot, yeah, they will just bring in their portable fan with them, and yeah, just making sure that they drink enough water. They are always hydrated lah.
Hmm. How about is there any implementations or products that you know of are used to support like the elderlies and the children?
Like what I said, I think currently portable fans are really, really strong, on the rise. It's getting more and more popular. I see a lot of them having it. So I think just having a portable fan that they can just blow at themselves, they can just hang it around their neck and just blow it themselves, or let's say not just wet wipes, I'll call them cold wipes. Yeah, those are really very good. To just make you feel very cool, have that sensation of that cooling sensation when you wipe that on yourself, lah. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Do you think the awareness of climate change is important?
Oh, uh, I think it's really, really important as climate change is a very important factor that just don't just affect Singapore, but affect the whole world. The world is getting more and more hot, not just in Singapore, like just everywhere. Because of climate change, there are a lot of floods, uh, like like what we reiterate, the heat conditions, and yeah, the weather is just going up, and animals are going extinct, such as like polar bears, um, the sea animals, cause of the floods, the rise, the melting of all the ice and stuff, cause of the heat. So it is a very, very concerning matter lah. Yeah.
Mm. Okay. Moving on. Have you ever came across like campaigns or initiatives related to heat resilience, be it on social media platforms such as TikTok or Instagram? Have you ever came across such heat resilience campaigns or initiatives?
Yeah, I've seen some like such as TikTok, just government or some influencers that are trying to push products like the wet wipes, the cold wipes, I would say. Yeah, I saw it in the internet, which I found really interesting that made me want to buy. So I've been continuously buying it. And yeah, I think there are just some campaigns that that remind us to keep on drinking and stay hydrated lah, facing these extreme heat conditions.
Mm. So you mentioned that you saw some videos on TikTok regarding the cooling wipes. Was it like a skit or just a advisory video kind?
Uh, I feel I feel like it's more like advertisement, but like it's more like advertisement, a skit lah, to show that how
Uh,
it is usable and how good the product can be. Yeah.
mm. Okay. So what kind of learning activities or platforms you think can be used to educate youths like yourself on heat resilience, be it like physical or through the social medias?
I think social media will be the best because honestly every teenager at least of the age of like let's say 13, 14 owns a phone. I'll dare say 99% of youths own a phone. So the power and impact of the social media, uh just advertising or showing campaigns about how being aware of the heat and the just bringing up the awareness of it and the dangers of what the heat can do to a body, maybe making our immune system weak and stuff like that is really important. Yeah, so just making sure that social media push enough campaigns that use will be aware lah, at least of all these heat conditions that are currently happening.
Mm. Okay. And we will go on to the last question. So, what kind of outcome would you expect after learning more about the impact of extreme heat in terms of, for example, personal growth or social impact wise?
So for the personal growth, knowing that there are these heat resilience factors that help us, I think it will push your personal growth to like be better. Yeah. And social impact wise, just making sure that the society know about it. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, can. So I think that concludes our interview. Thank you for your time.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
bye bye.
Bye bye.